What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So I have a question for you guys. If you are receiving, let's say, $1,600 in Social Security benefits, would you consider leaving the U.S.? That's my question for you guys, and we're going to talk a little bit about this because I have some numbers that I want to show you guys that are it's pretty eye-opening. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. But first off, on this channel, we talk about money and retirement. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so first off, I want to say I am struggling right now. I'm in Medellin, Colombia. It's 79 degrees. It's pretty hot out here. I'm actually joking with you guys. It is 79 degrees, but I know in Southern California and all over the West Coast, it is very, very hot. So I'm hoping that you guys are able to stay cool. And it's one of the benefits of retiring is you can live pretty much wherever you want, or you can move around wherever you want. And this is one of those situations where I look and I'm just thinking, if I were at home right now, I'd be in the house, I'd have the AC on, and I would just be laying low until the sun sets. But hopefully everybody's good out there. Let me know where you're living. What's the temperature like where you're living? Let me know in the comment section below. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, because when it comes down to it, and I talk a lot about living abroad or living outside of the country, and I know there's some people that say I would never do it. There are reasons why I would never do it. One, my health. Two, my family. And so there are a lot of different reasons, or they just don't have the money, or they think they don't have the money to travel to another country, or to leave the U.S. and go to another country. It costs too much money. Well, the reality is health, yes, that's a good reason to stay in the U.S. Not that they don't have health care. Anywhere you go, you're going to have health care. Some places are better than others. But if you're on Medicare, you can't get Medicare in other countries. So that would be a situation where you would either have to plan right. So let's say if you're in Colombia, and I use Colombia as an example because I think Colombia is a good location if you're living outside of the U.S. And the main reason for that is you're 2.5 hours away from Florida. So you're 2.5 hours away from the U.S. So if you needed to go for doctor's appointments and things like that, you could do that living in Colombia. You could feasibly do that. Same thing with Mexico. If you're living close to the border in Mexico, you can get to the U.S. and it doesn't take that much time. You don't have to fly. You can take a car if you want to do that if you're in Mexico. And now another reason, people talk about family, and I understand that as well. But you have to ask yourself this question. Let's say you're living in California and you have family in California. Would you relocate to another part of the U.S.? And if the answer is yes, let's say if you're living in California and you want to relocate to Florida, it's cheaper there. And if the answer is yes to moving to Florida, well, moving to Colombia it's not too much further, okay? As a matter of fact, if you're on a plane, it's about the same time it would take for you to get to California to Florida to get to California to Colombia. So we're talking 5 to 6 hours. So that is one of those situations where if you have family in California, you can still go back and forth. They can come visit you, that kind of stuff. So it's not a situation where it's something that just could not happen as far as your family. If you're looking at moving to another state, you could also look at moving to another country, moving to Mexico. Or there are a lot of people that live in Southern California that visit Mexico frequently. There was a friend of mine. Her brother lived in Mexico and actually commuted to the U.S., commuted to San Diego to work, and then went back to Mexico to live. And he was an American, born and raised in the U.S. And so people are doing it. People are doing that. And if you do have family, as long as you're close, you can still see that family on a regular basis. But what I really want to focus on is the reality that you might have to consider moving, okay? And when I say moving, I'm not necessarily saying moving out of the country, but I'm just saying moving in general. When you're looking at the averages here, and I just talked about this average a couple of days ago, $1,656, that is the average that a person is receiving on Social Security. And then when you couple that with 1 in 4 Americans doesn't have any retirement savings, you're going to have a lot of Americans that are going to only have Social Security. They're not going to have anything else. And no one can live on $1,656 in the U.S. And so when you look at that, $1,656, that's the average that people on Social Security are receiving. And then you look at the 1 in 4 Americans that don't have any type of savings, retirement savings, you're going to be looking at a situation where a lot of people are going to be living below the poverty line. And so my question to you is, if you are in a situation where you're living below the poverty line, or you're close to the poverty line, is moving out of the country an option? And should you strongly consider that? Because I can tell you, and I have friends here in Colombia, I've talked to people in different countries. All you need to do is go on YouTube and you'll see different videos of people living in different countries, living in Ecuador, living in Thailand, living in the Philippines, and they're bringing in less than $1,600 a month, and they're living a nice life. They're living out by the beach. They're living in these major cities that are in different countries. And make no mistake, major cities in most of the world, it's going to be developed. You're not going to have too many problems. I'm in Colombia right now. I'm in Medellin, Colombia, El Poblado. This is a very, very rich area, and no problems with power, no problems with my safety or anything like that. You just need to, obviously, if you're no matter where you're living, you just need to be aware of your surroundings and things like that. And once you get to know the lay of the land, then you're much better off, because you know where to avoid, places to avoid. But when it comes down to here, I go to a supermarkets just like supermarkets in the U.S. The only thing is they don't have a lot of the same products, but it's primarily the same. You go to a mall in Colombia, in Medellin, where I am now, and it's just like a mall in the U.S., if not better. I would say that mall culture in Colombia is very, very important, and you're going to have a lot of people that go to the mall. Like in the U.S., we don't go to the mall that often, but in Colombia, they go to the mall a lot. And so you're going to see people in the mall, and so they put a lot of money into the malls in Colombia. But nonetheless, if you're in a situation where you are close to the poverty line, are you inclined to just stay in the U.S. and basically wait and hope that Congress will move forward with different legislation to help people that are poor? Or would you make that drastic move and move to another country where you can live a better life now and you don't have to wait? Because waiting on Congress to figure out if they're going to do a $200 raise for Social Security, or to figure out what COLA is going to be for 2023, and all these different things, when it comes down to it, is that the right way to go? Is that the right strategy? And it might be the right strategy for some. And I've said this before, when it comes down to it, if you're poor health, if you have some issues when it comes to family and you need to stay close for family, to take care of family and all that, that's totally understandable. And I'm not talking about those people, but I am talking about people who have the ability and not necessarily have the means. You don't necessarily have to have a lot of money to move out of the U.S. But if you have the ability, the physical ability to leave, would you leave? Would you make that big jump? And there are people, every time I post a video where I talk about this, there are people that post in the comments saying, yes, you know what, I made the leap. It was, I very rarely hear people say they made the leap and it was a total disaster and they ended up coming home. I very rarely hear people say that. Most of the people say that it was the right decision for them, and they're glad that they made that decision, and they're staying wherever they moved to. They moved to Philippines, they're staying there, Thailand, all that. So you very rarely hear people say the opposite. And so that right there should show you that it is a good option to consider. And so I just wanted to pose that question to you because it's important. I mean, you only have a certain amount of time here on earth, and who wants to spend that in a situation where you can't afford anything, where you're living paycheck to paycheck? And so just looking at all your options, putting them all on the table, and considering moving, it's something that works for some. And I will tell you, just being here for the last 5 months, being in Colombia, I've enjoyed my time. It's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. I'll still be here for a little bit longer, but when it comes down to it, I can see how you can afford a lot here that you can't afford in the U.S. Just going to restaurants. Yesterday I went to a restaurant, very nice, authentic Colombian cuisine, and it was two of us. We had 2 entrees, two appetizers, 3 drinks, and a dessert, and the bill came to $33. $33 for all of that food. It's pretty amazing when you start looking at things, and that's kind of on the high end, to be honest with you. Considering the restaurant, it was a nice restaurant. You can go to the small little mom and pop restaurants all day and get a meal for $3, $4. But when you go to a nice restaurant with a nice view and all that, usually you're going to pay anywhere for 2 with all this stuff that I just talked about. You're going to pay probably anywhere from $30 to $50. So $33. It's kind of it's good. U.S. standards. If I went to that same restaurant, ordered the same amount of food, it would have easily been $60 to $70. Considering when you look at the whole breakdown, the restaurant and the view and all that stuff. So I see it firsthand. I see how you could live here easily on $1,500 easily, and have a good life, and you're spending extra money doing different little things that you wouldn't do in the U.S. because you couldn't afford to. And so I see the reality, and I just like to share that with you. When I come across things, I like to share it with you. And just looking at those numbers, looking at the statistics, 1 in 4 Americans, they don't have any type of savings, any type of savings for retirement. It's pretty scary to think that when you get to that age to retire, you're not going to be able to, or if you do retire, you're going to be stuck. You're going to be stuck in a real bad situation. And Congress, they're not doing anything anytime soon. They're not doing anything fast. So you're going to be waiting a very, very long time just to get to the point where you can get some type of help. So I want to know what you guys think about this. So let me know down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Oh, I actually forgot. I wanted to tell you guys how much I'm paying for my apartment that I'm staying in right now. So what I will say is I'm paying $35. There are a lot of people that got $35 per day. That's not cheap, but I'm in a nice part of Medellin. Okay, I'm in the richest part of Medellin, El Poblado. I'm close to everything, close to the mall, close to a lot of the different restaurants, the higher end restaurants and things like that. So people want to live in this area. And so that's the main reason why it's $35 a night. I could easily find a place for $20 or $15 a day, but that's how much I'm paying. Now, if you want to see the apartment that I'm staying in, I will post a link. I'll actually post it up here. You can go ahead and go to the video that I posted yesterday, and at the end of that video, that's when I show you the apartment. So you can check that out. But $35 a day, and there are a large number of people that got that number. So thank you guys for participating. I'll do some more of these in the future. So hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.